Hey, everybody. Welcome back once again to Alley Talk here on Philly Sports Network. After a little bit of a hiatus, we're officially back. I know you'd think we would take the hiatus over the holiday, but the holiday is a little bit different for me. Thanksgiving is a killer week. If you know me, you know what I do for CBS Sports by now. We had 3 games in 8 days, Ben, so it was a little crazy, and I needed some time to recover. Then the day job caught up to me. So a lot of stuff going on, but we finally have some news worthy of breaking the cycle of just repeating ourselves on rumors. News, of course, is that Kyle Schwarber is back in Phillies pinstripes. 5 years, $150 million. Of course, the extension for the manager goes along with it. Some other news and rumors. Ben, first off, how you doing, man? Middle of December, feeling good. Winter meetings done, and a big ticket back in Philly.
Now that Schwarber's back, I'm doing pretty damn good. I was a little wavering. I was thinking, hey, Alonso and Tucker in place of Schwarber, and I know Alonso's a dirty word. I'm sorry. For about a week there, I was entertaining it. But, Schwarber I'm very happy about. I think the Phillies kind of tried to bury the Thomson signing, but he's a good manager, right? Like, 4 times back-to-back playoff appearances. I'm not going to say I'm happy with the way he manages in the playoffs, but is there anyone else out there that you'd rather have? Not really. The guys seem to like him, and you know what? You know what I do, Kyle? I trust Dave Dombrowski, and if Dave Dombrowski is smart enough to think that Rob Thomson merits another year, not as a lame duck manager, then I'm willing to give him another shot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with that. I think it was necessary, especially when the rumors started coming out about them adding a bench coach, and they were looking for a veteran bench coach. We'll get into the rumors on that front a little bit later. It seems like they only made one offer to one guy, but he's well respected across the league. I think it was important for not only Thomson, but for the message out to the public and internally. This is our guy, and the bench coach hire is literally just going to be that. So there's talks about Don Mattingly coming in as the bench coach to be alongside Rob Thomson, but I think it was important to add that extension for Rob Thomson first to really let everybody know inside and out of the organization that Thompson's our guy, and this is truly just an additional voice to help along the way.
Kyle, I actually think you're totally off there. I think that Don Mattingly specifically is Rob Thomson insurance. I think that any manager going into a year with a 1-year contract, Thomson was a lame duck manager until about a month ago, is as good as fired. The 1-year extension basically, in my mind, gives him till the end of 2026. And a 1-year extension, I don't know. It just doesn't do that much for me. It doesn't say that the Phillies have that much faith in Thomson. I do think that, hey, 2026 is his year. But if the Phillies come out of the gate 21-29 like they started under Girardi in 2022, I think Thompson's gone, and I think that Don Mattingly is the manager. And I think that they specifically moved Calitri around because they did not have faith if Thomson were to go in Calitri being the manager. They wanted a guy there with experience and with some pedigree to back Thomson up. And that's not to say I don't think Mattingly is coming into this as, a premier bench coach, but I think that's what his secondary role is Thomson insurance.
Yeah, that's definitely, I've heard people think that way. I think that is a legitimate take if you want. It's not a hot take. I don't even mean to phrase it like that. I think that's a legitimate way to look at it. It just happens to not be the way that I'm looking at it, Ben, but to each their own, right? That's, I think that even if that is the case, I think getting the 1-year extension out of the way was important. But Mattingly isn't even officially hired yet, right? So the assumption in all signs are pointing to that as soon as he's ready to sign the agreement, he'll be wearing a Phillies uniform. But for me, I think it was important at least to send them, even if it's a false flag, just send that message out. Hey, Thompson's our guy, and this is strictly what it is. Remember, Thomson was thinking about retiring before taking over as the manager. So that the 1-year extension at a time that he seems to be getting could just be the fact that, like, hey, man, we don't know how he's going to feel every year. So let's not commit to 5 years and the guy 2 years in wants to retire. Maybe I'm overthinking it too a little bit, Ben. But
yeah, I don't think the 1-year contract extension is like you're going to be done after this year. I think it's just sort of like, we're not putting our full faith in you, but we're putting a little bit of faith in you. And maybe they do this for the next 10 years. Look, I love my managers to be kind of old and fat. And I love that is what Thomson is. I as a guy, I love Rob Thomson. I was raised on Charlie Manuel and Andy Reid, so my sort of image of a manager in my head is that Thompson has a career 580 winning percentage, but the guy's going to be 63 next year. You're right. He is getting old. I would not be surprised that even if the Phillies kept winning, if he did retire in like 2-3 years, even if the Phillies do take it all home in 26 or 27, he's old. He's one of the oldest managers in baseball. So I don't think that's that crazy.
Fox, though, that guy. I'll tell you.
What a beauty.
Thompson, if you do end up coming across this clip, I swear I'll be professional this coming season. But I had to get that comment out.
I've met him too, for what it's worth. He was a great guy. Of all of the managers and coaches that I've spoken with, Thompson is one of my favorites.
For sure. But obviously the Thompson extension is important, but the biggest news, obviously, as we said at the jump, Kyle Schwarber, 5 years, $150 million, $30 million a season. Todd Zalecki reporting on the Phillies show that apparently they had already kind of had discussions, 5 years, maybe we go 6 just to make the AAV a little bit lower so they can get a little bit more creative. And then Schwarber's agent picked up the phone and called him and said, look, this is the offer on the table from Baltimore. If you match it, he's a Philly right away. And to me, for them, it was like, okay, great, done. Here you go. So I think that it's around the AAV that everybody expected. I think the 5th year towards the end of last season, there was talk, do you want to go to a 5th year? But as soon as you saw how many names were in, I mean, there were reports from Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan that essentially he was the dam and the entire major leagues was waiting for that contract to break. And then everybody else would sign because so many people were interested in his services for what he brings on the field, but also what he brings to the clubhouse and off the field. So I think it's easy to go commit to that 5th year, especially when he's done so much for the community, for the team, for the clubhouse, things like that. So I know we're focused on the field for the purposes of sports talk, but it goes well beyond that. And you're also talking about a guy who is likely going to cement his Cooperstown case wearing a Phillies jersey, and he will go into Cooperstown donning a Phillies P if all things go according to plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's worth more to the Phillies than he is to any other team. And there's a great quote.
Man. I think he's worth it. Clearly, the Orioles thought that he was worth it, right?
But from a leadership standpoint, I know he's very valued in that clubhouse. And you got to build up that rapport in any new clubhouse that you enter. He already has that rapport with the Phillies. And there's a great quote. I don't remember from whom, but it's, if you're rational on every free agent, you're going to come in 3rd place on every free agent. I don't think Kyle Schwarber is necessarily worth $30 million, but I'm glad with the deal. And I think he's worth $30 million to the Phillies. You also brought up an interesting point about Schwarber's Hall of Fame case. Does he make it? Like, he's going to hit 500 home runs. I think if Stanton hits 500 home runs, he probably makes it. And he's the first non-steroid guy who I think has a real case to not make it. But Schwarber, and look, I am not a WAR is be-all, end-all guy. Schwarber is at 340 career home runs right now. He's also at 20 career WAR. He'll probably end his career at like 30 or 35. And I'm like, oh, you need to cross the 55 WAR threshold to even be considered. But like, it does say something if you were that far below everyone else. Can Schwarber even, what is Schwarber's career going to look like when he hits, when he hits that 500th home run? He's going to need to average 32 home runs a season. He's going to need to keep performing at a high level, but he's going to be so far behind. It reminds me a lot of like the Adam Dunn case from a decade ago.
I see what you're saying. I do not envision a scenario where he doesn't walk into Cooperstown. He's a World Series champion, helped break the curse. If all things go well in Philadelphia, he could be a multi-time World Series champion. He's well respected. He's won a lot of awards. He is going to hit 500 home runs as long as he doesn't get a major injury. I mean,
is he into Cooperstown?
One of the steroid guys to me. I can't think of a reason why he wouldn't go in.
Is he into Cooperstown?
The DH argument. Really, that's the only thing I could see is the DH argument.
Is he into Cooperstown if he doesn't hit 500 home runs? Because you look at the other 2 DHs in the Hall of Fame, it's Edgar Martinez and David Ortiz, who in my head are, another magnitude or 2 above Schwarber. I don't think he is personally. Well, I wouldn't vote for him.
Obviously it's going to depend where the numbers fall. I mean, if he's like 498, we're parsing hairs.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
He doesn't retire at 498 though, unless it's an injury. At least,
right,
in my opinion.
So David Ortiz tested positive for a banned substance. Let's get
that he did.
Right.
As just like, get that out of the way.
It didn't happen, but it did. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why we're acting like that. That's not on his record. Like,
yeah, I mean, so did Pudge too, and like half a dozen other guys who are in the Hall of Fame. We all agree.
That's why. What are we doing? Like,
yeah,
why is Barry Bonds not in the Hall of Fame?
It's a travesty. Like, come on, guys. They're just making an example of him at this point, which is silly. But we've strayed very far from the Phillies in about 10 minutes.
we got away from the main thing here, but to get back on track. So obviously, Schwarber, a big deal. It's to me, they had to do it and they did it. And like you said, you trust this front office to get things done. You trust Dombrowski to do what needs to be done. He's not afraid to make a splash. Everybody, from the owner, everybody through the front office, everybody in the clubhouse, everybody wanted that guy back. And here he is back. The one thing I'll say about the signing I wasn't sure how the dominoes were going to fall, right? Pirates made a big offer to him. I don't know if they go make a huge money offer to somebody else. We haven't seen any rumors about that yet. Orioles immediately pivot and take that contract offer, and then they give it to Pete Alonso, which we'll get into a little bit further down the road. We want to talk about the additions that division rivals or the losses that division rivals have gone through for the Phillies so far this offseason and how that might impact them down the road. But the one team that I thought might be a threat, not a real threat, but might be a threat, was Cincinnati. He's from that area. They rolled out the red carpet the last series when the Phillies visited Cincinnati at the end of this past season. And things seem to point like maybe they'd be willing to spend a little bit of money on this guy. And then they lose out. And essentially all reports are, well, the only guy we were going to spend money on was Kyle Schwarber. So we're just going to look to fill in holes on basically the bargain bin from this point forward. And that's got to be really disappointing for Reds fans. Not only to lose out on the guy that you were hoping to get, not that you thought you were going to get, but to then be kind of get the knees chopped out from under you, if you will, with that news that they don't plan on pivoting to somebody else, another big ticket player.
Yeah, no, I feel really bad for Reds fans. They finally get into the playoffs. They get their ass whooped by the Dodgers. And I'm not picking them to make it back next year. And that's not to say that they're a bad team. But, like, I don't think that they're any more than an 83-win team like they were this year. I think they overperformed as well. And it's like, how often does an 83-win team get into the playoffs? I know that there are 6 teams now. I think that's another travesty. Bring it back to like the late 90s, early aughts. Give me 4 teams again, 1 wild card. They had it perfect. But, like, I don't know. I'd be pretty upset if I were living in Cincinnati right now and a Reds fan.
Yeah, they got good pitching, but they need a veteran bat, and they needed some leadership in that clubhouse. Mm-hmm. And Kyle would have brought both, but he's keeping it here in Philadelphia. And what's next is the big question on everybody's mind. The question for me is going to be: we kind of know where they've started to go. Todd Zalecki also reported that an offer is out and on the table to JT Realmuto already. And that it's just waiting for him and his agent to come back, either in agreement or to negotiate a little bit further. No details of that offer are available yet, and if they were available, Zalecki would have them. He's so good at getting that information when it's available. So he knows an offer's out there, but he doesn't know what that looks like. Could it be 2 years? Could it be 3? It's going to depend on what the market is, I think, for him. If they're willing to go to that 3rd year, I think a 2-year deal would be a perfect fit. What he brings as far as veteran leadership. I know that they have a lot of that already, but the veteran leadership that he brings to the table with that pitching staff specifically, and the fact that it's a significant drop-off after him as far as free agent options available at the catcher position, both internally and externally, a significant drop-off from JT, even if he is not the same player that he was when he first came to Philadelphia. So, Ben, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the next move is going to be JT Realmuto? And on top of that, do they wait to see Realmuto's response, or are they going to, hey, we can't wait. We gotta go look at these other guys because we still have more holes to fill.
Well, I think the biggest option on the market was Harry Ford, who's now already gone for pennies. Come
I'm
on.
stunned by that.
The Phillies couldn't make an offer that was better than that, like Jose Ferrer. Are you kidding me? That's malpractice by the Mariners. I know that he's blocked, but like, wait a little bit longer. It doesn't matter to me, at least, how good Jose Ferrer is, how much he, underperformed his peripherals. Like, I don't know, get a starter, get an outfielder. Don't get a middle reliever. But I already spoiled your question. Yes, I think that the Phillies are kind of waiting for JT. I think that domino falls within the next 2 weeks. I'm thinking like 238 in a club option, or like 346, something in that ballpark. Frankly, I'd be very interested in like a 238 in a club option, a lot more than a 3-year deal with a lower AAV. Just because I think JT, I think his knees are not long for this league, and
he's one of the few guys who catches a ton still, despite being in his mid-30s. Like that,
he's gonna be 35 next year, and it's clearly taken a toll on his hitting. I mean, I've been complaining about JT for years, even in 23 and 24 when he was batting 260 with like a 750, 760 OPS. Then last year he fell into a 700 OPS. He was batting cleanup for like a month and a half late in the summer. And I'd still love to have him on the squad, but geez, I don't want that guy on the team at age 37. At least not with Turner, Schwarber, and Harper all also there.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think it is necessary to wrap that up. Even if he doesn't come back, if he takes a 3-year deal somewhere else, I think they need to figure out that position. Or at least figure out JT's role in that position before they move on to another major move. Obviously, their front office is big enough. They're going to be having conversations the entire time. But as far as official moves being made, ink drying on paper, I think that he has to be the next guy that either comes back to Philly or they know that they need to go somewhere else if he decides to go somewhere else. But I think with his relationship with Harper, his relationship with Schwarber, his relationship with Wheeler, his relationship with the team, I'd be shocked to see him go somewhere else unless he gets blown away by a contract. If somebody gives him no options, 3 years, full no trade protection, and like 18 a season, what?
Yeah.
Can you blame the guy? No, right?
No.
So it's I don't think that's going to be what he gets, but in theory, if he gets blown away by something, you can't blame him for moving on.
Yeah.
I think the Phillies need to do that, but they also do have other holes besides that catcher position. So I think JT is going to be important to bring back, and understanding that he's not going to be the same offensive player he was a few years ago. Doesn't matter how healthy he is. He'll still give you spurts, right? Like I think we were even talking in our writers chat last year about, man, is he done being an effective offensive player? And then he had like the hottest 6 weeks of the season. Like the next day he started a really hot 6-week stretch. So wouldn't be surprised at all to see him come back sooner rather than later. And that'll free them up to focus on filling in around the margins. From Kyle, there, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to ask, do you think that there's who can they pivot to on the market right now? Not even free agent wise, but trade other than Adley. I'm really not sure there's anyone else out there, which is why I'm so confident in them re-signing JT.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys like, who was it? Ryan Jeffers. I've heard his name thrown out there. If the Braves decide that they want to get off of Sean Murphy's money, obviously that would be a much tougher trade with being in the division. But if they wanted to do something like that, a guy I thought would have been interesting who was just taken in the Rule 5 draft was the kid from Oakland. And oh my God, what's his name? Of course, I'm blanking. What is? Oh,
I totally know who you're talking about. This is really bad. How do neither of us know his name? He got moved to the Giants immediately from the
Daniel Susick.
Yeah, he's on the Giants now, right?
Yeah, he was traded to the Giants almost immediately.
Yes. Okay. I'm surprised the Phillies didn't try. That would be perfect JT insurance. It's not like it would have cost them anything. And then if JT doesn't sign, or if Marchand gets injured in spring training, you have your backup or you have your number one catcher. I just can't see them keeping, all 3 of those Rule 5 picks. Why not, do something interesting with one of them? I do think that one guy, the reliever, the righty reliever from Miami, is going to be on the roster, at least for the first 2 months. They'll see how he does. I think he makes the opening day roster.
There was someone else that hold on. I want to find it because there was somebody, I think it was maybe the Rangers catcher, Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim was a guy who I had heard like maybe they try and move him because they have a great defensive catcher behind him, and maybe they do that. I think one of their better rated, not one of their top, but one of their better rated prospects is a catcher as well. So maybe he could be an option. I know he's had some down years offensively, but he's a guy who has shown some promise in the past, a former highly regarded prospect. So, and a good defender. There's like, who is it? Yainer Diaz from the Astros. There's rumors that they want to trade him, but his defensive numbers are terrible. I doubt they would want to do a complete 180 like that, even if you have Stubbs or Marchand backing him up and taking like 50 games a year. I don't know if I would want somebody who ranks in the bottom when you have a pretty solid defender and a great game caller, great at controlling the running game in JT for so long. To have almost the exact opposite of that would really be a difference maker, not only at the position, but for that pitching staff as well. So I think I would avoid that, but there's not a whole lot of rumors about catchers because it's not a deep position across the board at the moment. There's a lot of teams who could use a change of pace at catcher. And obviously the Phillies being, they don't want a change of pace, but they could be one if JT decides to go somewhere else.
Yeah, no. And it's also just that, like, that makes it doubly crazy to me. The lack of depth at catcher around the league, the fact that the Orioles signed Sam Basallo to that like ridiculous deal before he even really played that many major league games, while having Adley Rutschman there to sort of go out on a limb and say bye-bye to him before you know that he's not a great catcher. The guy had 1 or 2 mediocre years. It's ridiculous. But we have talked about JT a lot, Kyle. I'm wondering as well, like, the Phillies have a lot of open maneuvers that they can make. You asked about, do they wait until after they sign JT, or do they start making these moves beforehand? I'm really, really intrigued by Tetsuya Imai.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you guys don't know who this is, Tetsuya Imai is one of the Japanese players posted from the Seibu Lions. He is going to be 28 years old next year, and he said, he wants to help dethrone Ohtani as sort of the premier player from Japan in the major leagues, help dethrone the Dodgers, and he wants to come to an East Coast team. The Phillies have never had a Japanese player sign directly from Japan before. I think the last guy that they had was like Tadahito Iguchi or So Taguchi, and they had Hyun-Soo Kim, who's Korean, in 2017. I think this would be a great way to break into the Japanese market and help convince more guys to start coming over. Imai last year had a 1.92 ERA in Nippon Professional Baseball, struck out 9.8 per 9, walked 2.5, and allowed 0.3 home runs per 9. The guy has excellent command. He throws hard. And the other day, I want to say, what's today? We're at Friday now. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Some Japanese magazine had him on the front cover next to a Phillies logo. And I'm not going to say I could understand anything else on that cover of the magazine. I kind of was like looking at a fever dream. There was a lot of info going on that I did not understand. But I recognize that picture and I recognize that logo.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. And I don't think the Phillies are afraid to make a move like that either. Like you said, I think that Dombrowski's not afraid to make a big jump, and he really knows how, throughout history, his history in the league, he has found a way to convince owners who don't want to pull the trigger on a big signing because they've already spent a lot of money to do it anyway, right? So I think that would be a really intriguing option. They're in a decent position without adding another starting pitcher if Wheeler comes back with relative health. I don't expect him to be the exact same guy that he was prior to his issues health-wise, but if he comes back and is anywhere close to that, you would have Wheeler, Nola, Luzardo,
Walker,
Sanchez,
Painter,
obviously, and then Taijuan Walker and Andrew Painter will be there as well. But if you bring in this guy, you can really let Painter take his time. You can really let Wheeler take his time. You can have Walker in a defined role all season. I know he did great flipping back and forth, but I'm sure nobody wants to do that 2 years in a row. So really knowing what he's going to do. will, I think, make that last year of that contract even more beneficial. I don't think they're going to move on from that. I think last year proved how valuable quality starting pitching depth is, even if it's middling quality, it's still quality nonetheless. It's major league ready, major league prepared quality. So I think that would be a really interesting move. I would love for them to get into that market, show some of these young players coming up after this current generation, like, look, this is a place where you can thrive and you can really expand your brand here in Philadelphia. Yeah, it can be cold. Yeah, the fans can be a little wild, but at the end of the day, this is a club that wants to win, and you have a guy who you probably looked up to, who went there and won himself. So that would be an awesome move. Not one that's necessarily on my radar, but the more I'll tell you, the more those rumors keep churning, Ben, the more I'll probably end up being like, the next episode, the title will just be like, "Am I now?" Like that'll be the whole episode if we keep hearing rumors. So
yeah, I'm good at convincing myself of anything. The more I hear about the more I like him, and the more I do think the Phillies probably should add another starter going into next year. And I'm not saying they should force their way into one, but if Rangers market collapses or if MI can fall to the Phillies, I'd really like to see the ball club, spring for a starter. Because right now going to the season, like Luzardo and Sanchez are the only two guys on the opening day roster that are going to be pitching out of the rotation that I trust. Wheeler's not going to be there. I don't trust Nola. I don't trust Walker, and I don't trust Painter. Like, I would like a third guy who's going to be pitching on opening day, who I can say, I want that guy to be handed the ball, like, in a game that, nothing is a must-win game in April, but, like, I'd like to be confident, with someone getting handed the ball. And it's interesting you bring up Walker, too, as, someone who might need a defined role in 2026. And he really overperformed his peripherals. He walking a lot of guys, giving up a lot of home runs, not striking out a lot of guys last year. But I think that there are teams that sort of see something in him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see his contract the last year that deal moved. Same sort of thing as Bohm, same sort of thing as Castellanos. And that rumor that the Phillies and Padres were working on a deal came out of the winter meetings a few days ago, has me kind of intrigued that might be something going on there.
So Ben, I want you to expand on that a little bit, because I hadn't heard that. So I know that the rumor out there that the Padres were looking to make some changes, but I hadn't heard specifically them being linked. So tell us what you've heard about that so far.
So I have heard nothing other than that the Phillies specifically and the Padres specifically have been linked. I'm also unsure about the quality of the rumor, but looking at these rosters together, there are essentially two things that I can see. One is a contract swap type thing where the Phillies offload Castellanos or Bohm or Walker for some low-level prospect, and they pay half the salary down just to get those guys off the team. Because there aren't any, middling guys who are like 26, 27 who, are due a change of scenery for the Padres. They've got a lot of old dudes, and they've got a few really good young dudes. They've got Jackson Merrill, and they've got Fernando Tatis on the other side of that coin, right? Both of those guys are really good. And that AJ Preller likes to get very creative. I would be shocked, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the Padres, if the Phillies and Padres aren't linked over a contract thing, like a Walker, Castellanos, Bohm type thing, I would not be taken completely aback if the Padres did move one of their big-time contracts like Jackson Merrill or Fernando Tatis to the Phillies for a big old load of prospects, including Painter, Miller, and Crawford. I don't think it's likely, but frankly, I don't think that I see any middling moves there. I think I see the contract moves, and I think I see the big-time splash moves, because the Phillies need an outfielder, and both Merrill and Tatis can play center field, and they both play it pretty damn well.
Yeah, Preller did say recently that Tatis won't be available. I know things can change, but that they did come out and at least kind of put their stamp on that. The idea of offloading Castellanos, I know that's been floated a few times, and I think it's going to be a difficult task, right? It's $20 million for a guy who is clearly declining quickly, who has I think a change of scenery will fix his quote unquote attitude problems, because I don't think he's ever really had or been known to be a drama queen or have these behavioral issues. It's just not the right fit like people thought it would be, right? That it happens, especially with a guy who came in with a lot of expectations and hasn't lived up to it and has been beat up by the fan base and beating himself up a little bit. It's easy to see how things could go astray despite everybody else being satisfied with the current situation overall. I think the more likely scenario in a Castellanos type of trade would be if you're dumping money for other money, right? It's you're moving off of this, you're taking on another bad contract, and that's the exchange of money instead of, hey, we'll buy half his contract to get something back. Like I think it's more likely that you see Castellanos to the Cardinals for Nolan Arenado than you do Castellanos to the Padres. Castellanos and $15 million to the Padres for a single A 25-year-old, right? I just maybe it's possible, but I think that if I'm a team, even if it's a nothing prospect, I know that the Phillies are so desperate to get off of this contract. I'm just going to wait for them to cut him and sign him to the league minimum anyway, right? So why would I give you anything when you're this desperate to do it, especially when rumors come out that like other executives say it's essentially that they're desperate, they're trying to give him away at this point. And I think that reinforces that he will be gone, right? But it's who's just going to take there are people who need right-handed outfields. There's not a whole lot of qualified hitters last year who were right-handed and played the outfield, and the Phillies had two of them, and they might not have any coming back next season. Like that's how desperate right-handed hitting outfield help is at the moment.
It's weird.
Kind of pivots to the next guy is Harrison Bader. I know that there's talks about rumors of Brenton Doyle, and there's rumors of other potential center field options, and will Marsh play center? Will Crawford play center? But obviously Harrison Bader was a spark plug here for this team. Wow. Here for this team after coming in at the deadline. And things, I don't know. I haven't heard any recent rumors about what he's looking for. He likely would garner a 3-year deal, or at least he'll be looking for a 3-year deal. But he's on the wrong side of 30 and only now had the best offensive season of his career. Can you expect him to replicate that a couple years in a row, especially for 3 seasons? I don't know. He does bring a lot to the table. I do like what he offers, but do you want to commit money to him? And similar to the conversation that we had around JT, are you waiting for him to make a decision before you go add another bullpen piece, or make a decision on Bohm, or make a decision on there's a lot of things that need to happen, and are you going to sit around and wait for one guy when you need other moves to be made? I don't know.
I don't think
rather than go sign figure out a way to go get Pete Fairbanks instead of waiting to see what Harrison Bader does and giving him 3 years unnecessarily, right? I'd almost be more comfortable throwing Marsh or Crawford out in center field and just learning to deal with it, if it means I can go get one of these high-end relievers to add to the mix at the back end of the bullpen, instead of waiting for a guy who I'm not sure what he's going to be this coming season, let alone 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, no, I am not all that enamored with Harrison Bader, at least going forward. I was a huge fan of him this year, but like he was due for regression the entire time he was in Philly, and we saw it a little bit the last 2 weeks of the season. I would love to have Harrison Bader back on this team for 2 years, $25 million, but he's not going to take that. It's gonna be the same deal as JT, $345 or $350. He's coming off the best season of his career, and he plays good defense, and he showed, hey, maybe this guy can hit. And you know what? I would love to be proven wrong. I hope that guy goes elsewhere, and I hope he has a great career going forward. But I don't want the Phillies to be giving the wrong guy $60 million when they already have so much money wrapped up elsewhere. I think they need to be focusing more on trades and getting younger instead of getting older. And I know that Schwarber is not exactly that, but there are some moves that you need to make to maintain the core. You can maintain a core and still get younger by, calling up guys like, Miller and Crawford and Painter, or trading a guy like Bohm for a younger player, or even just trading Bohm for a guy who's similarly aged. But I don't think that they need to be focused on signing more dudes who who are on the wrong side of 30 for, contracts that they should be coming in third place in free agency.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, that's been kind of the talk. People are worried about, they're just running it back again. Well, you already know that they're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, great. Even if they bring back Kyle and JT, like half your bullpen is going to be revamped. You do need to make a decision in the rotation about what you're going to do. Even if it's like a Chris Bassett type, it doesn't have to be a top end of the guy. You're going to need depth there regardless. Mm-hmm. You know that Nick Castellanos, for all intents and purposes, Nick Castellanos will not be on this team in this upcoming season. You already know they've essentially told you, unless some crazy trade offer comes out of nowhere, Justin Crawford will be on this team next season. Mm-hmm. They will rely on Andrew Painter at some point this year. At the winter meetings, they said that they are more than willing to call up Miller if he continues to progress in the middle of the summer. Not one of those like what they did with Painter last year. Oh, well, he's not progressing. Like, look, dude, if he's ready, we're going to go. We're going to take that because he's rocketing through the system. So there's no reason to not think that things are going to look different.
Yeah,
they got that first move out of the way, and now they can really do what they need to do.
Yeah, I do want to just add, I think running it back is such a dirty word. That's not how things work in baseball. You want to talk that way with basketball where there are only 5 guys, and if you run this back with the same 5 starters, then yeah, sure. In baseball, there's 26 guys on a roster. Like, you're going to change a few of those guys year to year. Like, I know, the Phillies ran it back from 23 to 24, and then, they kind of did it again from 24 to 24. Like, no, they didn't. Yeah, they ran the same core back, but they also ran the same core back of Utley, Rollins, Howard, and Hamels from, 2005 to 2013. Like, they won a World Series in there. They won 2 pennants. Like, can we stop with, the Phillies are just running it back? Because that's just not, it's not how baseball works. If you keep the same 5 guys who are good in the middle of the lineup, that's not running it back. That's just smart baseball.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. One thing they're going to have to do, they're going to have to add to the bullpen. There's been rumors about them being linked to Pete Fairbanks, as I mentioned. There's really 5 spots locked up in that bullpen right now. You're talking Alvarado, Banks, Strahm, Duran, and Kerkering. And then you probably want to add another high leverage right-handed pitcher back there, especially if they seem to have good vibes during anything that they've mentioned about conversations with Orion Kerkering so far. But if they are worried about him struggling a little bit mentally coming back after that, how the playoff game ended for the Phillies and ended with the wrong throw from Kerkering, and if they decide to add somebody to kind of take some of the pressure off of him, I think that would be a smart move. And again, like, especially if you're talking about someone like that, like a Fairbanks or someone who's a high leverage guy, I would not let my pursuit of Harrison Bader get in the way of that. I would not let my want to make a change at third base or second base or right field get in the way of that. Right. I'm going to go after that guy and figure out where the chips fall after that. So if you're talking like true back end guys who you're going to sign a multi-year deal to, not the 1-year rehab assignments like you did with Ross and Romano or Kimbrel, or name anybody they signed to a 1-year $10 million contract the last few seasons, right? But like if it's going to be one of those, then sure, take your time, see where the market goes. But if you want to get serious about solidifying the end of that bullpen and having multiple options to turn to before Duran, especially from the right side, since Kerkering's really the only other guy at the moment, that's something you're going to have to do. And then on the flip side, they did get a little creative with the Schwarber contract. This first season, yes, the AAV kind of counts the same towards the luxury tax, but as far as actual cash on hand, the first year is a $15 million signing bonus and $15 million salary. That allows them to get a little bit more creative this season, and maybe they could front end a contract if they bring in somebody else to help them navigate the short term for this club. So something to keep an eye on. They've gotten creative already. Do they need to free up even more money to make a move? And is Bohm a way to do that with all intents and purposes? All the projection sites are saying he's going to be around $10 million. Can you, since Banks has really shown up, can you afford to move on from Matt Strahm? Even if you don't want to, can you afford to do that to free up some additional money in order to to do it because again, I know you mentioned the Walker and maybe somebody would be willing to do it, but you're going to have to eat money on that contract anyway. I think Strom's an easier sell to another team.
Yeah.
Left-handed relievers, and he's really good, playoff experience, all that jazz. He's been a reliever for a long time and a very effective one at that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kerkering in there, potentially trying to get off of him after the playoffs. Like, I know that among Phillies fans, he's kind of a dirty word right now. That guy is still like hyper valuable. I know
he's so good.
I know he had like a rough playoffs in 23, and I know he had a rough playoffs in 25. The dude is 24 years old. He is getting paid $800,000 next year. He has a career 2.79 ERA and great peripherals to go with that. Like, you move Kerkering, you're not just getting some like middling prospect or some mediocre reliever in return. You can get like a haul for that. He's got 4 years of team control left. Like, Kerkering should fetch you a big deal. Like, whether it's, someone to be the starting catcher next year or like a top 8 prospect in a system, top 5 prospect in a system. It shouldn't just be like, oh, let's get off Kerkering to get off Kerkering. It's let's get off Kerkering to, make this team a lot better, because Kerkering has serious value around the major leagues right now, even if he's had a few bad playoff appearances.
Yeah, I'm not saying you would get a Mason Miller type haul for him, but like,
no.
You're talking that, not dumping the guy, right? You're talking like, I want multiple controllable pieces back because this is a young controllable piece with an electric arm.
Yeah, and look at his stuff. Like, the guy throws 99. He's got one of the most electric sweepers in the league.
Effortlessly 99.
Yeah, it's frankly, I'd like him to have a little bit more effort. That is a light fastball. Get a little bit of bite to that, Kirk, please. I would love it if you come back in 26. But like,
that 2-seamer ended up being deadly for him last year.
It did, but he does.
Strom called his sweeper 1 of 1 in the
it is 1 of 1. I'm talking solely about his fastball.
I know, but I'm saying like that's the kind of guy you're talking about is Strom. I didn't say what do you think of his sweeper when I asked him. I interviewed Strom and I said, what do you think of Kirk's recent performance? And he said he has maybe the best sweeper in the majors. He's like, to me, it's 1 of 1. It's one of the most dangerous pitches in all of baseball. And I didn't ask, like, what do you think of his repertoire? I said his performance specifically, and he went out of his way to be like, it's the best pitch. It's so good, right? So that's the kind of guy you're talking about here. I don't want to ignore the chat, Ben, so before you get a chance to respond, Steve Garrison, I apologize. I wasn't looking at the comments, peppering us with some ideas. So let's go through those real quick. He agrees with you that he wants them to sign what do you think about this trade for Luis Robert Jr.? If they start asking about prospect packages like they were asking about at the deadline, you can go kick rocks with that, right? Unless he comes out like gangbusters to start the season, I'm not going anywhere near that. If they're looking to dump him after they picked up the $20 million, fine, right? I'll take a flyer on a guy, but no way am I going to give up significant prospect capital for a guy who looks like he has given up the last 2 seasons, essentially.
This is probably a stupid question. I thought that the White Sox exercised Luis Robert's option, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people think that it's so he can rebuild value so they can trade him.
Okay, so for whatever reason, I looked him up on Baseball Reference. It said he's a free agent. I'm fairly certain that's not correct. But I don't think that, a team exercises a club option and then trades him over the winter. I could totally see the White Sox trading him at the deadline, but I don't see them moving him, this offseason, at least not yet. I think, Kyle, you're spot on with them waiting for him to play well in April and May and June before moving him.
Yeah, the only reason I could see him moving, not saying that to the Phillies, but because center field is such a difficult position to evaluate, and it's not always easy to get somebody who can do both, right? Who can flash the leather and swing it with some regular pop in center field. That's not something you find easily. So maybe somebody decides, hey, if they lose out on Bader, they lose it on somebody else. We really need that extra help. We didn't get Bellinger, we didn't get Bader, we have nobody internally, and we have an injury. All right, let's go get Luis. So maybe he gets traded in like spring training if he gets traded before the season. But I think it's more likely that if he has a hot start, they trade him before the deadline, if at all.
Yeah.
Next one up, trade Bohm for a prospect or a young catcher. The problem with that, Steve, is that young catchers cost a ton of money if they have any sort of outside of Ford, apparently. But like they cost a ton because everybody needs one, right? Everybody needs one. 3 people have one, and it's going to cost a lot more than Bohm for a young catcher. I do like Bohm. I think he could have value outside with other teams. I think that I don't think he has an issue here, so it's not a change of scenery type of thing like it would be with Nick. But I think that if he gets back to what he did 2 seasons ago and he gives you 40 doubles and 15 homers, I'm satisfied with that if I'm anybody.
Same.
He's flashed some decent leather this past year, and he's a right-handed bat, which a lot of people need at the moment. But he's also 1 year left, $10 million. So what are you really getting for him? I think if you do move him, it's more to get off the money, take a prospect back, like Steve also mentions here. Some other options he mentioned, Jorge Polanco. I think he's going to get paid somewhere. I think maybe Pittsburgh gives him some of that money that they were hoping to give to Kyle Schwarber. Or if he wants to go somewhere else, maybe the Yankees get involved. They're still looking for some infield help. Miguel Andujar doesn't do much for me, but I'd be willing to take a flyer on him as a depth piece late in the offseason if you still need to fill a role, right? Like
Polanco's also not a third baseman. And he started 18 games there in 12 years. I'm not sold on moving him to third base unless, it's his idea or his agent's idea. He'd be replacing Stott.
More than likely, yeah. But
I don't see that.
That is something to consider. What do you think about this as the projected lineup from Steve? So Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Luis Robert, Marsh, whoever's playing third base, Stott, catcher, and Crawford. I like the idea. I personally think they're going to flip Harper and Schwarber just like they did to start last season. I like the way that that Dombrowski talked about. Was it Dombrowski or no? It was Thomson at the winter meetings. Reminded people, because they did start the season this way, that they did have Harper batting 2 and Schwarber batting 3 or 4, depending on the handedness of the starting pitcher that day. And then when Harper went out with the wrist, Schwarber bumped up to 2, and he was so hot that when they brought him, they just wanted to leave him there. And he said that it kind of worked out where the idea was that Schwarber would be protecting Harper with Harper batting 2 and Schwarber batting 3, but it almost worked out the opposite way, right? Where Harper was essentially protecting Schwarber all season long, and Schwarber was getting better pitches to hit as a result. I mean, that's not the reason he had such a successful season. It's the hard work he's put in to improve against lefties and to be a more consistent hitter. But it does help when you have future Hall of Famer Bryce Harper batting right behind as well. And Steve, I think flipping those two would be a huge result for them. If they get another middle of the order right-handed bat, or if Alec Bohm gets hot, you can see what they started the year with last year as Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber. I personally wouldn't mind going Harper, Schwarber. I don't care about 2 lefties back to back. They did commit to that at some point, but that's an option. How do you feel about the placement of Harper, Schwarber before we move on to the next comment?
It's just wherever they're most comfortable. If Schwarber is more comfortable in 2 and Harper is more comfortable in 3, play them there. I think lineup construction is mostly like a relic of old baseball. Lineup construction is only as important as making your players play better and be more comfortable. And Steven, I'm so sorry. I can't take any lineup seriously that has Luis Robert Jr. batting 4th. If you want to go back to 2022, fine. The guy has had an OPS over 700 2 years in a row. He's got raw power. Bat him 7th, bat him 8th. If the Phillies get him, let him work his way back up to batting 4th. He's not a cleanup hitter in today's MLB, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd be fine with batting him near the bottom to help turn the lineup over. Until he shows up. If he comes out and he starts hitting like he did 3 years ago just because he's in a better situation, sure, bat him in the middle. But
the guy is just not that valuable anymore. Sorry, I mean, literally, he is since 2023. I'm pulling it up. 660 OPS. He's batting 223. His OBP is below 300. His slugging is below 400. That's not a guy you want batting cleanup. I don't care what his pedigree is.
How do you feel about this guy, Kazuma Okamoto, the third baseman, first baseman? He did a little bit of outfield in Japan, but has a good track record of of some pop. I think he hit 40 homers 2 seasons ago.
2023, yeah.
He's done over 30 almost every season. Yeah, every season since 2018, he's hit over 30 except for 2024. And then he had a shortened season last year, so he's coming off an injury. But any full season, I mean, he's a consistent force. If I remember correctly, isn't he not projected to be a good defender anywhere, really?
Yeah, you're essentially getting 2022 Bohm back at third base. I am interested in him though, chiefly because Nippon Professional Baseball in Japan is in a pretty incredible dead ball era. A lot of you guys have heard of how Trevor Bauer's doing over there. He had like a 3.9 last year, which doesn't sound that bad until you realize that's the highest qualified ERA in the entire league. Yeah. That's like having like a 6 year. So anyone who puts up a 992 OPS like Okamoto did last year is probably going to come to Major League Baseball and rake. I'm actually more interested in his walk rate than I am in his ability to hit home runs. The guy pretty much consistently year over year like walks, 70, 80 times over a, 162 game scale. So if that can translate at all to the major leagues, I'm really interested in that, because that's power is hard to translate. Guys are throwing harder, guys are throwing nastier. You end up hitting a lot more balls on the ground. But a good eye is a good eye, and if you can, pick up a breaking ball early, then you can pick up a breaking ball early, and I think that plays a lot. He had a 4.11 OBP last year with a 322 batting average and 581 slug in a shortened season, as you mentioned, Kyle.
Yeah, I actually was mistaken. I don't know what I've heard, if I've heard anything negative about his defense necessarily, or like terribly negative. It was Murakami, the guy who's a third baseman, first baseman, who's like the power hitting king of Japan at the moment. He apparently is like, okay, he played some third base, but he's better suited as a first baseman, and he's really better suited as a DH. And that's two positions the Phillies have locked up already. So if they are going to take a shot on one of these third basemen from Japan, I think I'd rather it be Okamoto, just because of that. Just because of he's a little bit better suited to play third base long term. If you're going to go for a Bohm replacement, and it also helps heavily that he bats right-handed. They need right-handed. Like, you're going to lose Nick. You know that JT's not the same guy. If you're talking about moving on from Bohm, you're eliminating the 3 right-handed hit. And if you don't re-sign Harrison Bader, you're talking about having no right-handers in the lineup, right?
Yeah.
So, like, outside of Trey Turner, you need to add right-handed hitting. Even if it's not in the middle of the lineup, you need right-handers in that lineup to balance yourself. So I think that Okamoto is probably the better fit. And I think, Ben, what we can do is better prepare ourselves on all the Japanese pitchers for the next episode. All the Japanese players, rather, for the next episode.
Okamoto, turns out I was totally wrong as well. He's a multi-time Gold Glove winner at third base, specifically in MVP.
Okay, there you go.
He has 2 Gold Gloves at third.
I did not know his defensive prowess. I was mistaken.
I was also totally mistaken. I was totally ready to be like, oh yeah, he's terrible at defense. No, I'm now fully aboard the Okamoto train. Again, defense translates. Power doesn't always, average doesn't always. Defense and doesn't matter what level. That does well. And I would love to see what Okamoto would cost on the market right now, because I have no idea where he's at. I'm guessing will probably command 80 to 120 million. Okamoto, I don't know what his market is.
And also, just so you know, I will make sure that we don't use any of those clips from that segment.
It's fine.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here. So.
I am not omniscient. I don't claim to watch the Japanese leagues as much as I would like. They are on a little bit too late for me. I don't know about you, but 4 a.m. is a little bit past my bedtime.
A little bit, yeah. I typically only watch when they do like the season opening series over there. Which, like, in the middle of spring training, I'll wake up early and watch those because I'm a degenerate. But
I would rather watch MPB.
I know who those players are. So for me, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll watch the guys I know as opposed to the guys I don't.
I'm more interested in watching the guys I don't know. I love the fans. I love the atmosphere. I love like the small ball style of play. Like, if they could broadcast that in America, and if I had a late night, I'm absolutely watching the MPB. But unfortunately,
I just love that. that building is used for both baseball and conferences and professional wrestling. Like that's
it's so funny. Yeah,
I have to go to that stadium whenever I go to Japan. I have to.
If you have ever seen the stadium where the Nippon Ham Fighters play up in Hokkaido, it's like the most beautiful baseball stadium I've ever seen, and it's like I'd love to go to Japan one day. I'm never going to go to Sapporo in Hokkaido, which is the northernmost island. For those of you people who don't know as much about Japan, unbelievable. It's like, glass, like it's a dome, but it's got like a glass outfield. They've got like 3 tiers of stands in the upper decks. It seats like 43,000. It's awesome. They've got a right fielder out there who's got a cannon of an arm, Chusei Minami. Sorry,
that highlight. Every time it comes up, I send it to everybody I know. I'm like, this is the greatest throw I've ever seen, dude.
He's never gonna come over, but if he ever did, I'd love him in right field for the Phillies. He'd have like a 550 OPS, but goddamn, he'd have like 17 outfield assists this season.
Yeah, that would be nuts. Dude, Tokyo Dome. That's the building I was talking about. Yes. Gotta go to the Tokyo Dome when I'm there. Whether it's baseball or wrestling, gotta do both. That is, I think we're all caught up on the comments. Now, we talked about Billy. We talked a little bit earlier about what will happen to Nick. I think that's going to drag out into February, maybe into March even. I don't think they're in a rush to move on from him. I think they know that they're going to treat it like a sunk cost until it's not, right? So they know that they have $20 million on the books. Whether they eat all of it, whether they eat most of it, whether they trade it for another bad contract, they have to assume that there's going to be $20 million. I think the best case scenario is if they trade him for somebody who has 2 years left and it's less of a AAV hit this year. No, I mean, like, so they can free up a little bit of money, right? Like again, the Arenado trade, I think his AAV left is like 15. So you're essentially buying yourself $5 million of flexibility if you make that deal, but you're adding 15 for next season, right? So it's let me look that up because I don't want to.
I mean, the other problem with Nolan Arenado is that he doesn't really play defense anymore. Like,
not as well as he used to. I mean, he's still.
Well, yes, I don't mean to say that he's just DHing now. But he can't really hit anymore, and he's only 34. It's not like his career's not over, but like he's not a Gold Glover anymore. And maybe I'm speaking a little too soon. According to defensive run saved, which I don't really like. He's still, a positive defensively. But like just from watching him, I can tell that like he's not the human vacuum cleaner that he once was. Savant, right. Baseball savant, outs above average agrees that he's still an above average offender, probably a little bit above Bohm, but he is declining, and who knows where he's going to be next year. I wouldn't be all that surprised to see Bohm and Arenado flip on the defensive ability ranking.
That's fair. But we talked about some of the free agents. We've talked about obviously these trades that the team feels, whether it's for nobody or for money or whatever the case is. But they're gonna have to think about other potential trades as well. And one of the guys that they have been linked to as of late, you and I are actually split on, so it's gonna make some good content here. One Ketel Marte,
too old,
Arizona Diamondbacks. Everybody kind of feels like the writing is on the wall that he is on his way out. I know that the team and his teammates defended him after some. He did have some personal issues. His house got burglarized. He felt pretty beat up about it. Missed some time with the team. Apparently, spent some time additionally away from the team. Publicly, they said all the right things. There were some reports, although it wasn't an insane amount of reports, but there were some reports that came out that they were that some of his teammates were unhappy with that, with how much he missed, and that the team kind of just excused it. But he is a very good player, 13th best player in baseball by WAR over the past 3 seasons. He's 32. He's a decent defender at second. He could play third if you really need him to. He's also had some experience in the outfield, probably better suited for the corners at this point. I think he played a little bit of center field before. His bat is pretty good. Better than average walk rates, better than average strikeout rates. His contact rate is good. His on-base rate is good. His power numbers are decent, especially as a second baseman. He adds the most value at second base, more than likely, but that's not necessarily a hole for the Phillies at the moment. They do have holes in the outfield, and I wouldn't mind putting him in left or right field, depending on what else they do. So We talked about it for a moment before we joined on, and you disagreed. Obviously, it's going to depend on what the price tag is as to whether I would love to bring him in or not. But I like what he does on the field and wouldn't mind having him on the Phillies. But you feel differently, so tell the people about it, Ben.
It's a problem of cost for me. Like, I'm not even sure that I would move. I would do this. It would pay me to do this. And the thing is, it's not going to be 10% of enough for him. Like, even Stott for Marte, I think is handicapping yourself. I don't think Marte is the sort of guy who ages gracefully. His game relies a lot on, contact hitting, which is just, and speed as well, which just isn't something that necessarily ages gracefully. He's been a good defender, specifically at second base for most of his career. Another thing that sort of, tends to hit a wall when you hit 33, 34. I think it would probably cost Stott and Painter, and you're only getting what, like, I guess I should. He's got another 5-6 years under contract through 2030.
Yeah, he just signed an extension with them a year or two ago, and I think he has a club option at the end,
player option in 2031,
okay,
which he would, in all likelihood, decline. That's not a good thing, It's not something you want your players to have if you're trading for them. And look, I think it's the other sort of thing where it sets the Phillies up to win a World Series like next year. But like Schwarber, like Turner, like Harper, I don't want another guy who's going to be 37 in 2029 that the Phillies can't get off of. Like, Ketel Marte is a great player. I think that, if you want to push all your chips into the middle and move Stott and Painter for him, then great. But I think you're shutting the window in like a year or two, and I don't necessarily think he adds that much value over. Does he add value over Stott? Yeah, absolutely. Like, you got to be crazy to think not. I think it would be really great for the Phillies as well to have a switch hitter in the lineup. But like, I don't see Ketel Marte being worth Andrew Painter and Bryson Stott, given the years of control that they have down the line.
The being 35 in 2029 or 36 in 2029, I understand why that would be, but like, you already have a lot of money committed that late anyway, and if things continue to go how everybody assumes, unless they add in a salary cap, which I don't think is going to happen, it's that money just becomes easier to deal with down the road, because
it does.
Everybody's payroll goes up. Everything goes up over the years, right? That's one of the reasons that the 13-year deal for Harper was so great. Not only did it bring down the AAV, but like, it felt like, oh man, I'm really going to pay this guy $27 million when he's 39 years old. Well, yeah, because like in dollars when he's 40, it's going to be like 18 million today, right? It's not the same thing. So I'm not too worried about that, although I'm not saying that to invalidate your concerns, because they are valid concerns. They are real. Yeah. You have a young guy in Stott. That being said, I know you compared them as like, Stott is nowhere close to the offensive player that Ketel Marte is. Mm-hmm. Not even remotely close, and I don't think has the potential to reach that level.
Yes, I agree.
Right? To me, I just think he's a slap hitter at best, Bryson Stott, and he's essentially fell into a platoon last season. Is that the guy that you like? He's the deal breaker.
Well, it's not so much.
You didn't say that. I'm not saying you did, but like, to me, I'm not. I don't think that I'm letting Stott be the thing that deters me from getting a guy of Ketel Marte's caliber.
It's about the value, though. I think Stott, that even when he's not hitting well, is bringing so much value. Like, Stott brings more value to the table non-offensively, like maybe top 5 among all MLB players. He's probably the best base runner in the entire sport. And, he's a top 3 defensive second baseman. Like, even when he's not hitting, I still have a lot of faith in Stott, A, to work a good at bat, B, to play good defense, and C, to steal 35 bases and get caught like 3 times throughout the entire season. And I think that people really discredit how good of a baseball player Bryson Stott is because he's not an elite hitter. And the thing is, like, I still think coming into every year that Stott is going to have, a 730, 740 OPS, because that's all he needs to be an all-star caliber player. That's what he had in 2023, and he was the most valuable Philly that year by WAR. Again, I know I use it a lot. I don't think it's, the end-all be-all stat, but it is, an indicator of sorts because I do think he's a good player. And it's like, look, Ketel Marte is a great hitter, but if that hitting goes, he's like a decent defender and he's an okay base runner. It's like, do you really yes, he's better than Stott, but is he better than Stott and Painter? I'm not. I mean, maybe I'd move like Gage Wood for him, but I don't think the Diamondbacks are accepting that, and I'm not sure the Phillies are offering that.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's some things I gotta ask you about this how you feel about Bryson Stott. And this isn't to hate on you, but it's
yeah.
You said it's a guy who you think can steal 35 bags a season. He hasn't done it. The most he's ever stole is 32. His career on base percentage is .318.
That's semantics, though. I mean, okay, fine. 30 bases.
Best season he hit .280. The rest of the time he hits under .250.
Yes, but he's still okay.
4 years in, don't we know who he is now?
Yeah, I think we do. But you know what?
He's 27, right? Like traditionally, if you go by old school thinking, your prime years are 28 to 32. So he has a chance to recover. He has a chance to come back. Second half of last year, he was great. I understand all those things. I'm not saying I'm done with him. Like a lot of people are saying they're done with Bohm and need him. I'm not saying I'm done with Bryson Stott. If he's your second baseman on opening day, I feel pretty good about that still. That being said, he's kind of shown us who he is, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good player. That's my qualm with it, is that, look, if he can have a 720 OPS like he had last year, great. I know last year was his worst season as a base stealer. He only stole 24 bags, got caught 5 times, which is the most of his career. Coming into last year, he was, I believe, the second most prolific base stealer all time just on a rate basis. He got caught the least amount of times besides anyone other than Byron Buxton and Chase Utley among all Major League history. I don't know how that stacks up after getting caught 5 times this year.
Byron Buxton. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah. But he's such a good base runner and he's such a good defender. I know that he technically only had 2.2. I am so sorry to everyone who hates WAR because I hate it too. I just needed to illustrate a point here. I know that he only had 2.2 WAR last year. It should have been 3.5. I think DRS does not work as a defensive stat in a single season. I like to use eye test if I'm going to use a single season defensive metric, and I like to use outs above average. He had great outs above average. He was 8 outs above average last year at second base compared to 0 defensive runs saved. He didn't play a full season. That guy plays a full season last year. He's a 3.5 WAR player, and he's just under all-star level. And you know what? Ketel Marte was 4.4. I know I'm making Ketel Marte seem worse, and I know I'm making Bryson Stott seem better to fit my argument, but I know that Bryson Stott is a good player when he's not hitting, and I know that Ketel Marte is a not as good player when he's not hitting. And Bryson Stott's 27 and Ketel Marte is 31. You had 3 more years of team control for Stott, and I'm not ready to move on from him just yet.
You say 3 years for Stott?
Yeah, he's a free agent after 2020. Oh, after 2027. I always get
no, so it is 3. If you include this season, it's 3. For some reason, I thought it was this year and next year. So that's my mistake.
No, because he debuted in 2022. Oh, you know what? It might only be 2 years of team control because he played pretty much all of 2022. Most players get 7 years because they only play half a year when they come up. Wow, that's almost unbelievable to me that he only has 2 years of team control left. I think he'll be cheap to re-sign though. He'll get a 4-year, $60 million deal.
You just mentioned a guy who I was going to pivot to next. Obviously not the same position. I think we've discussed. I am a little more pro Marte than you, but both of us agree it's going to come down to price tag, right? If they want Painter Crawford plus or they want Painter Miller plus, walk away and see if they change their mind come July. The guy who I think people got really excited about at the deadline and he decided to stay, but has seemingly changed his tune to start the offseason is one Byron Buxton. He had the healthiest season of his, I think, of his career, if not in a long time. Byron Buxton kind of fits exactly what the Phillies need in the outfield. He's a plus defender in center. He would be a plus defender in the corners if you decided to move him there. He's pop, he's speed, he's leather, he's fiery. That's something that I think people ignore too often is the attitude of a guy. They want to look at the spreadsheet and see what the guy does. But to me, Byron Buxton is a dude who brings a lot of energy that the Phillies don't have. They essentially have one fiery guy on the offensive side of the ball. Everybody else, they're great, but they're cool, calm, collected. They take a very professional approach. Bryce Harper's the only dude who is like Mr. Fiery, and he's grown out of that a little bit.
Yeah,
on this roster, at least on the offensive.
I would say Schwarber's more fiery than Harper at this point.
I don't know about that, man. He's very. I consider him cool, calm, collected. He's like the voice of the. Maybe you see the highlights of him yelling at umpires and stuff, but ultimately he's not like hitting a bomb and like, oh, let's go. He's not getting all hyped. Yeah. He's not like
Harper doesn't do that anymore though either. I'm not saying that Schwarber is fiery. I'm just saying he might be more fiery than Harper at this point in his career.
That's fair. But that goes to show that they're missing some of that fire, right? And I don't think that you don't need 26 guys to do that.
No.
But you need somebody in the clubhouse who, when things aren't going right, is going to get the boys lit, right? He's going to get the boys ready to go. And I don't mean vibes like Garrett Stubbs. I mean somebody who's going to go out there, do it, and then turn to the bench and be like, your turn, boys, let's go, right? You need someone like that. And I think Buxton brings a little bit of that. The problem with Buxton is that he doesn't make a ton of money for how good he can be, but he's played over 100 games 3 times in his career. And the last time he played 126, the most he's played since 2017.
Yeah. I give him 2 full seasons. The problem with Buxton is that the Twins are going to want a lot for him. And if you make that trade, what if he's injured? And it's like, obviously the injury history will bring down the price, but I'm like looking at his stats over here, and I'm like looking at that 2021 season where he played 60 games and had, an OPS over 1,000 and would have won a Gold Glove if he played the full season. And it's like, I want that. I want it so bad. He was 11th in MVP voting last year. He did an 880 OPS. It's just like, he had 35 homers, stole 24 bags, didn't get caught stealing once. Yep. But like, a
hell of a season, man.
I don't think I can trust him.
Bad Twins team. Twins team.
I don't think you can trust him to not get injured. And I was talking about the whole base running thing. Like, oh my God, is Byron Buxton an amazing base runner? He's stolen 117 bases in his career. He's been caught 12 times. He has never in his entire career been caught more than 3 times in a season. Like, I know he's injured, but like, he was perfect 24-24 last year. Like, come on, guys. I mean, he is electric, and it's just like the sort of thing where, like, if he was already on the Phillies, I wouldn't move him for the world. But I gotta imagine that's how the Twins feel too.
Well, I mean, they might not have a choice. If he's like, guys, get me the hell out of here. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't think he's like that.
I think they'd rather do right by him, because you're spending a lot of money on a guy when you're not ready to compete, right? They didn't do a reset, or they didn't do like a retooling where you shift some pieces out, bring some other pieces in. They hit the reset button hard.
Yeah.
Like, they got rid of everybody on the major league roster outside of like 4 dudes.
Except for Byron Buxton.
It was insane. The one thing that I'll say, the luxury tax hit for him is only $15 million.
Yeah. Like Marte, he's got a great contract.
He's only signed through 2028?
Yeah. Do you know, it's not about the money. The money is of no consequence. You get great right-handed power.
If he was making 25 to 30, that's a huge risk, right? 15 mil?
But the problem is, it's all about cost. Is that now that he is cheaper because of his contract, he's going to cost more. And it's like the same sort of thing where I'm not giving up, Miller.
But you balance that with the fact that he's not reliable on the field, so you can't ask for the world. I mean, they can ask,
but I think they will.
Right? No one's going to give them their top 3 of their top 5 prospects. Nobody.
Yeah,
they can ask for it all they want. But if they want to get off of that contract and do a full reset, they have to be willing to accept what's out there, and that's not going to be out there.
Yeah, and that's why I think Buxton's not going to be moved. No one's getting Buxton other than the Twins until he's a free agent. And I think if the Twins are in, any realm of competitiveness, they probably re-sign him. And it's not out of the realm of possibility to say by 2029 that the Twins might be, okay again.
Led by Cody Clemens, of course.
Yeah, big dog.
All right. So if it's not Buxton, they need options in the outfield. Who would you, Ben Silver, today, December 12th, 2025, who would you like the Phillies to target for some outfield help?
That's Brenton Doyle. I like Brenton Doyle.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, here we go. Okay, so break it down for us. Why should they go after Doyle?
Because he's cheap. And because he's going to be a good change of scenery guy. He had a pretty awful year last year. He had, let me pull this up real quick.
So one thing I want to say while you're pulling that up,
you
said cheap. You mean cheap dollars-wise.
Well,
4 years of team control for not a lot of money.
Yes, but I think
you're
going to
have to trade prospects for him.
Because it's the Rockies, I think it's going to be cheaper than Ketel Marte or Byron Buxton. And I like the high floor. Like Bryson Stott, he's going to play good defense, and he's going to be a good base runner for you. I know he only had a 650 OPS, and I know that that's in cores. But he's not going to cost, he might cost Crawford, but I'd be totally cool giving up Crawford for Brenton Doyle, even if it's, Crawford and, Escobar or something like that. Yeah. Why? Look, Justin Crawford can't play center field. He's a left fielder.
He can. He may not play it at a Gold Glove plus level, but he can play center field.
And the thing is, he's like, look, can he be a good offensive player? Yes, but he's not going to be like a difference-making offensive player. I think that, Justin Crawford's ceiling value-wise is, Brenton Doyle's ceiling value-wise. And we already know that at the bare minimum, Brenton Doyle is already a major league player. If that deal is Dante Nori or Arun Escobar plus Crawford, I'm making that 100 times out of 100 because I think that Brenton Doyle is going to flourish once he gets out of Colorado, finds a real hitting coach, and, is patrolling a center field that's a little bit smaller than the one out at Coors Field. I'm really all in on Brenton Doyle, specifically because it makes the team younger and he costs less than Byron Buxton or Ketel Marte.
So I might be a little bit over overthinking the trade package that it would take to get Brenton Doyle. Obviously, you're right about the money, right? He's significantly cheaper. People estimate that he'll make around $3 million on Sport Rack. That's what their estimate is at the moment. He made under $1 million last season. He's a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, which people you do not find that just randomly, right? But and he has 4 years of team control?
4, yeah.
Yeah, because he's an ARB4 guy. So 4 years of team control. He's going to be 28, 29 during this season. But he's not making a ton of money. I could see it, but I think because of all those factors, he's going to cost you significant prospect capital. I mean, yeah, okay, he hits right-handed, and you know what he can do in center field, whereas you don't know what Crawford can do in center field every day yet. But are you going to give up your top prospect for a 8-year-old guy who is not a good offensive player outside of a flash 2 seasons ago?
I'm not giving up Miller or Painter because I don't think he's going to cost that.
Well, I'm sorry, Crawford. You mentioned him. He's one of the top 3 prospects they have.
But I don't think – I think that Crawford has it in him to be a good major league player, but I'm not sold on him as a major league player the way I'm sold on Miller or Painter. And I think evaluators probably feel the same way. I think the Rockies notoriously have some pretty bad evaluators and might see Crawford a little higher than other teams do. And again, I like Crawford, but is his ceiling higher than Doyle's? Yeah, probably. But his floor is clearly lower. So
Steven coming for you with that comment, I think.
No, he's not a right-handed Brandon Marsh because Brandon Marsh can't play center field, and he's not half the base runner that Brenton Doyle is.
He can play a little center.
Yeah, he can play a little center.
Center the way that Crawford can play center.
Yeah, exactly, which is bad. It's bad. You don't want Brandon Marsh in center field. And that's the thing is it's I would like the Phillies right now to focus on high floor, young, cheap players. That's what Bryson Stott is. That's what
Isn't that what Brandon Crawford is too, though?
Justin Crawford is. Yeah, that's what
Brandon Crawford.
What Justin Crawford
Justin
is.
Crawford.
But Brenton Doyle is that, but more. And if you can move Crawford for a guy who's a little further on in the timeline, then yeah, absolutely, I do it. And I think that Brenton Doyle, once again, is a change of scenery sort of guy. I think that if he comes to Philly, he's going to be a better player. I think that, you get a guy off of a struggling team like the Rockies. Can you imagine going into that clubhouse every day and knowing you're going to lose? What does that do to your psyche, right? What does that do to your feeling as a hitter at the plate? Like,
go ask Chris Bryant. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like, players go to the Rockies, hitters go to the Rockies to die. You get someone out of that.
Go there to try and rebound playing in Coors Field.
Not as much as they used to. Like, not the way they did 10 years ago, and certainly not the way they did 20 years ago. Like, I think you get a guy out of that environment, out of, having to patrol the biggest center field in the majors. You get him in Philly, and I feel really good about his chances to bounce back. And he had a great barrel rate last year. And I'm cherry picking. But, like, if you want to look at one thing, the guy is at least, squaring the ball up. And it's not quite leaving the yard every time because Coors Field is goddamn huge.
So what do you think it would cost? Do you really think that they would be asking for one of the top 3 prospects in the Philly system?
I think that they'd be asking for Justin Crawford and Dante Nori / Arun Escobar / Gage Wood. I think they're asking for one tier 1 guy and one tier 2 guy. And if you throw in a tier 3 guy, maybe the Rockies will throw in a reliever. Maybe you add some salary.
Any interest in that?
Really?
I don't think I want to trade a tier 1 and a tier 2 for a guy who's already 28, whose career OBP is like 290. Like, I'm good.
What do you think that Justin Crawford is, though? I'm not convinced that he's a major league hitter. He's got to learn to put the ball in the air, and he hasn't shown that at any level of the minors.
I think he's going to hit anywhere from 250 to 275 every year and play a plus defense in the
outfield. But 250 or 260.
He has a great eye and he doesn't strike out. So he's going to constantly put the ball in play. He's going to get on base. I think he has a good on base percentage. If he hits you 265 in the 9 hole and has a 330, 340 on base, like that's.
Yeah, but what does that do for you without any power and without playing a great defense?
Turns the lineup over to get back to Trey Turner and Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, the guys you're paying to do the damage.
So you're holding on to a guy who's going to be, this guy turns my lineup over getting a guy who is a proven Gold Glove defensive center fielder who, getting him out of the worst environment in the majors. That doesn't do anything for you. That's the centerpiece of the deal, is a guy who turns the lineup over.
A guy who gets on base with regularity, is a plus defender, and turns the lineup over. Yeah, I'm taking that.
He's not a plus defender.
Who is a nothing at the plate and happens to be a Gold Glove center fielder. Like,
I think that's where we differ. He's not a nothing at the plate guy.
Show me how he's something at the plate.
I think in 2024,
he's 28 years old.
He's had 3 seasons in the majors.
That's my point. Like, he's a late bloomer, came up late. He should be the only guy doing well on that.
So the hell what that he's a late bloomer?
It's
like you look at his peripherals. He hits the ball hard. He has like solid expected batting average and expected slugging that he underperforms. The biggest concern, of course, is that he doesn't walk. But the fact that he's already developed, 3 tools, his hit tool, his glove tool, and his run tool.
He hasn't developed his hit tool, though.
It's not nothing.
He has I'm not. If they were to acquire Brenton Doyle, where do you envision him hitting in the lineup?
7 or 8.
Okay, then I'd rather keep all of my prospects, put the other guy there who I think is going to hit 7, 8, or 9, who has a better on-base percentage, who is fine, whatever. He can be a corner outfielder. I'm okay to sacrifice a little bit of defense. It's not some huge drop-off. I'm okay to sacrifice a little bit of defense for a guy who appears to be a better hitter, and I can use those other prospects in other trades to get better players. Like, we just differ on him clearly because I envision him as like a platoon partner for Marsh more than I do my everyday center fielder. Marsh cannot hit right-handers.
Who's playing center field? Who's playing center field for you then?
If they were to get Doyle, it would be Doyle and Marsh.
Well, of course. No, I'm saying if Doyle isn't there, who's playing center field for you? Because otherwise, I don't.
Justin Crawford to start the year, and you figure it out. He's athletic enough. You put him out there, you figure it out. I was fine with Revere being there. I was fine with old Juan Pierre being there. I was fine with old Kenny Lofton being there.
All 3 of those guys are great defenders.
Very young Justin Crawford being there.
All 3 of those guys are great defenders.
Ben Revere was not a great defender.
Ben Revere wasn't bad.
Athlete who was able to make up for his poor defensive play. with his athleticism, similar to Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh is not great at reading the ball off the bat in center field. He's not great at his first step in center field, but his athleticism makes up for a lot of that.
I would rather have Brandon Marsh in center field right now than Justin Crawford. And I think that Brandon Marsh is a terrible center fielder. I don't think he's the worst in the majors by any means, but like neither Crawford or Marsh should be a center fielder on a championship caliber team, especially given, who the Phillies have in the corners, which right now is no one.
Yeah, that's a good point. All of these things matter in a vacuum, right? They need more than one move. If you bring in Brenton Doyle, you're still like, crap, what's going on with my outfield, right? Well, they seem pretty. Take my feelings out of it. They seem pretty committed to Justin Crawford being in the outfield to start the season, unless there's a major move. And Brenton Doyle, to me, is not that. So I don't think that they would move on from him. I'm not discounting that. Part of the beauty of sports talk is what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
We disagree on a point. Let's hash it out. But it's a little, to me, there's not enough there. If he was a better hitter against right-handers, sure. If he didn't have a complete 180 at the plate last year from 2 years ago, sure. I'll trade Crawford, and not a tier 2. I'm talking like Crawford and the oldest single A player I have for Brenton Doyle.
I think that still might get it done.
But it's only if he were better. I wouldn't do that right now, personally. That's just me.
I will just say the idea of Doyle in center, Marsh in right, and Crawford in left, I think gives you maybe the best outfield defense in Major League Baseball. I'm not even sure you have to make a move I would want them to, because I think offensively you're really going to be lacking, but defensively you've already created, a no-fly zone out in the outfield at CBP, especially for a small outfield. They need more.
This is a guy that I did not have on my radar. But I'm looking at ESPN's, top 25 potential trade candidates from Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel. A guy who hit the OLI or the other potential guys just off the 25 was Jason Dominguez from the Yankees. Not a high likelihood that he would be traded, but they've talked about bringing in some bigger name people. How would you feel if the Yankees go get Bellinger, they go get somebody else, and they're looking to make some room in that outfield, and they call up the Phillies? Hey, what do you think about Jason Dominguez?
So I love, one of my favorite things that Dombrowski does is his trades for like bounce back guys and especially young players. Brandon Marsh for Logan O'Hoppe, I still think. I mean, it's either that or a Caba for Luzardo are Dombrowski's two best moves since he got here. And I really like the idea of that. I think that Jason Dominguez can still be a very productive offensive player. What concerns me is the defense. And I'm not sure if it's the sort of thing where, he's young, he'll get better, or he's young, and when he ages, he's going to slow down and get worse. It depends what he costs. Like, I think Jason Dominguez would probably cost Justin Crawford. Or, Gage Wood.
I'd be okay with Crawford for Dominguez because
I would too.
He's 23. Like, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
He's 23 and he's still a highly regarded potential player to develop. And he has a 330 on base, which is basically what I said Crawford would have. So I'm okay with that.
I think that
Dominguez, but you're right. He's probably more of a corner outfielder as well. I mean, they already moved him there and played Bellinger in center more than they did him.
It's not even about him being like not a center fielder. I'm concerned that in like 3 or 4 years, maybe it's unfair to say he's Nick Castellanos defensively, but like I think that Jason Dominguez he's got feet like cinder blocks out there in the outfield. He has no jump. He does not know how to play a ball off the bat. He's got speed, which is why he was in center.
I was going to say his steal numbers are good, but that can be deceiving. Like a lot of people equate, he's fast on the base paths, but he's a great defender.
Juan Soto stole 38 bases last year. You can be slow and be a good defender. I don't know.
Stole 30 bases last
year. He led the National League in stolen bases last year. Unbelievable.
By the way, Josh Naylor's the guy that I wanted the Phillies to get really bad.
Yeah, Josh Naylor would have been awesome. I don't know.
That fire that I was talking about earlier. He has that.
That would be awesome. So Jason Dominguez was... Oh my God. He was second percentile outs above average last year. He did not play a single inning in center. He's already a worse defender or as bad as Nick Castellanos, and he's 23 years old. That is my concern with him. As a hitter, great, but like you are committing to having bad outfield defense if you are going to play Jason Dominguez out there. Like that's the problem. I would love to see him, in Philly. I'd love to see if, they can turn him into, a 295 batting average guy, 830 OPS. It'd be great to have a switch hitter in the middle of that lineup because the Phillies, haven't had one in years. But I'm really, really, really concerned about his defense. I'm not sure he is anything but a DH by 2028, 29.
That would be interesting. Maybe he can be a specialty guy like Nick was, where you position him perfectly and he's really good at one thing and he does that well over and over again. But
he's going to play left field too. You need to move Crawford to. I guess you're moving Crawford for him. That solves that problem. But you need to move Marsh to right, which I think is less of a problem than Crawford. I think Marsh can play right, but he is your left fielder, and you cannot get another. You cannot get another one.
That's fair. Well, Ben, I think we've exhausted the conversation on the potential trades. Yeah. Before we move on to just wrapping up what the rest of the NL East has done so far in the offseason, any final thoughts on Phillies targets? What you would like to see them do? Any names maybe that we didn't mention that would be an interesting target for people to research independently before coming back next week?
Are you saying that people don't want 90 minutes of Brenton Doyle trade talk, Kyle? Is that?
I mean, we could go another 30 if you want. It was the most exciting part of the show, to be honest. But
no, I think we touched on pretty much everyone. I think center field.
One in the comments, real quick, if you don't have anybody.
Oh, Adolis Garcia, I'd be very interested.
Adolis Garcia, I think it's a buy low.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
High
he's
upside
gonna cost,
candidate.
Yeah, it'll be like 2 years, like $22 million. I'd be very interested in bringing him in again. I love my high floor guys. He plays good defense, and he's a pretty solid base runner too. And he's got pop. I think that flipping Nick Castellanos in your lineup for Adolis Garcia is great because at worst, Adolis Garcia is Nick Castellanos at the plate, but in the outfield he can be a Gold Glover in right field.
Yeah,
he's huge, but he gets a great jump on the ball. So I would love if they brought in Adolis Garcia. I'm not sure how realistic it is, but I think he's a pretty perfect fit for this team if you're going to sign him.
Honestly, I think he's a guy that you could probably get on a prove it deal. You may have to overpay, but I'm a big proponent of there's no such thing as a bad 1 year deal. So
ALCS MVP too. I mean, you won a World Series, 8 home runs in the playoffs that year.
You might be able to buy low on him and allow him to treat it as like hey, this is your rebuild season. Go do it surrounded by all these superstars, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even if it's not that, even if it's like a 1 year with a vesting for a second, or 1 year with a mutual option for a second, or however you want to phrase it, if you want to get creative with whatever that second year is, even if it's a fake year, player option after one, just so he can use it as a rebuild, but he has that second year if he truly wants it. Right. I think that there's potential there. So good shout by Steven. Sorry if you mentioned that earlier.
Real quick, the more I look at his stats, the more I think that if it were a 1 year prove it deal for Garcia, I think he'd be getting 22, 23 million. I think just based on, his postseason experience and based on the fact that he can hit 40 home runs, I think more realistically, and I'm selling myself, the more I talk about it, the more I'm selling myself on him, and his defense as well. Don't forget that. I think it would probably be more like a 2 year, 28 deal with maybe like a club option. I think for a 1 year,
he made $7 million last year. No one's going to give him $28 million.
Yeah, but that wasn't why he got released. He got non-tendered because he was going to be making 16 or 17 this year by the Rangers.
It was 12 and a half. 12.75.
12.75 is what he's making last year, or what he was going to?
No, it was what he would have made this year.
Really?
That was the estimates, yeah. So they non-tendered him.
Okay. Well, I'm totally off then. I think the open market, I think he gets something similar on the open market then.
I'll say 28 might be like a 3 year deal for that guy.
I'd give him like 225 off the bat right now, no questions asked.
Yeah, I think that could be a solid move, especially if there's some sort of opt out after year one, just so you're not committed if he doesn't bounce back. But he would be a perfect candidate, I think, to
Mhm.
buy low and hope that you can rehab him, because you want to talk about fire. That dude has fire in spades.
Yeah.
And
Ridiculously
he
high
has a
ceiling.
postseason track record that, some guys can just turn it on like that, and he has a good track record out there in the postseason from his time with Texas. So that would be a good person. But I apologize. I didn't want to cut you off. You said you didn't have anybody, and I saw that comment from Steven. So go ahead, give us, if you had one more name besides him, who would it be?
Now it's Adolis Garcia, because Steven, a heck of a shout, man. That was awesome. As much as I love Randy Arozarena, I think he's just going to cost too much for a 1 year of a guy from a team that's competing. But man, I like. Garcia has a high floor and a high ceiling. Could he be a disaster? Yeah. Has he ever had an OBP over 330 in his entire career? No. But I like him. I like the idea of good defense and base running and good base running, even if he doesn't hit. So that's where I'm at. Go sign Adolis Garcia, Phils.
That would be a fun one for sure, and wouldn't be surprised at all if you saw some rumors pop up that they were linked together. So good shout by Steve. Appreciate everybody. We're going to do a quick roundup of what the other NL East teams have done so far this offseason, and then make sure you keep it locked to our Twitter accounts at Philadelphia SN for the latest and greatest. Also, we obviously started the show with the Thomson extension. And one person, I meant to shout this out at the beginning, but I was so excited to be back on the air. So for those of you still with us, our guy Sean Nestor wrote a awesome piece on what the Kyle Schwarber signing means beyond the numbers and the dollars. So make sure Metro Philadelphia Sports Network, you go check us out there, Metro Philly or Philly Sports Network. Check it out. It is a wonderful piece. It dives into the impact that he has as a human being on this roster and community beyond just the fact that he's a really good hitter on the field. So just wanted to make sure I gave Sean that shout out, because he's been working hard for us all off season. I took a little bit of a hiatus. Ben had some school he had to worry about. Guy wrote an incredible piece that goes well beyond just the dollar figures that you would normally get everywhere else. So make sure you check that out.
I'm not beating the allegations of being the child hire by PSN anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, the joke going around right now is that Ben goes to school with my son, so that's where we're at. They're both at Temple University, so.
But what it's worth, guys, I am the oldest one in my class. I am 25. I'm 26 and a half. That extra, to be fair, is very important.
My son is 18, and I was his age when he was born. So, we're not talking about me being some real old head, but there is a stark difference here.
Yeah, right.
But quick wrap up for the rest of the NL East. The Mets, they did sign what was thought to be a potential 8th inning guy to partner with Edwin Diaz, who had opted out, but all signs were pointing to him going back to the Mets. They did sign Devin Williams with that incredible changeup. The Phillies have seemed to handle him well over the years, so not too worried about that. But and he had a down year with the Yankees last year, but we all know what he can do when he's on. Had one of the best runs from 22 to 24 with the Brewers, a sub 2 ERA in all 3 of those seasons. A little bit of a blow with the Yankees last year, but he is now staying in New York, but flipping sides over to the New York Mets. However, they did lose Edwin Diaz to the World Series champion Dodgers, and they lost Pete Alonso to the Baltimore Orioles. So Phillies fans are losing their minds with excitement. Ben, how are you feeling about that? And do you think the Mets go into panic mode and sign another big player to replace Pete Alonso?
So just for their sake, I'd say purely from like a business standpoint, I'd rather have Devin Williams on that deal than Edwin Diaz on the deal that the Dodgers gave him. But like, I'm very happy that Nimmo and Alonso and Diaz are gone.
Tell people about the Nimmo trade too. I didn't mention that at the top.
Yeah, so Brandon Nimmo is gone. I have been a absolute I have hated Brandon Nimmo for I don't know, about a decade, ever since he started killing me in out of the park baseball when I was in middle school. He got moved to the Rangers for Marcus Semien, who has not been good the last 2 years. And I understand that, you kind of do want to move off of Nimmo's money. They did sign him to a pretty big deal. But, if I'm the Mets, I'd much rather have Brandon Nimmo than Marcus Semien, just from a outfield defense, base running, hitting standpoint, all 5 tools. I don't understand what the Semien deal is. I believe Semien is also owed more money than Nimmo. Nimmo has another 5 years at $20 million on his contract left. Semien has, I believe, only another 3 years left. So, Semien is owed slightly less money, but he's a pretty significantly worse player. Like, imagine
a solid defender at second, but not the guy that he used to be.
No, not at all. Like I said, it's 2 years below a 700 OPS for him. Maybe he bounces back. Who the hell knows? He's going to go out there and play every day. He's been healthy pretty much his entire career. But yeah, I'm really upset if I'm the Mets right now. I'm a little worried that this is going to force them to go out and trade for Tarek Skubal. But I mean, the Tigers are going to require a ransom, and I don't think the Mets are a Tarek Skubal away from taking back the National League East right now.
Especially because Detroit is just going to want to pivot to other good like they would expect to get like Senga back because Senga would make less money than Skubal, right? Like that even if they do go out and get Skubal, they're going to have to give up a significant amount of major league ready or near major league ready talent because the Tigers have a window right now where they're ready to compete.
Exactly. And they might even just give up some of their major league talent. I'm not really sure who the Mets would trade, but I got to imagine that Norman McLean, who's one of their top Norman McLean, and who was the other guy who came up last year, pitched like 10 games, had a baby face, Jonah Tong. I got to imagine both of those guys are headlining any deal. Jonah Tong had a 1.43 ERA in the minors last year. Like those are 2 really, really good starting pitchers. And if I'm the Mets, I would almost prefer to, run it back for a year with those 2 guys than to lose them to Tarek Skubal. I don't think the Mets are that close to winning, 95 games. I think the Phillies could totally only win 87, but I don't think that they're a championship caliber team as they're currently constructed. Same for the Braves, frankly. I know they just picked up Mike Yastrzemski and Robert Suarez, but
I could see the Mets making a big swing for one of these guys coming out of Japan as well.
Yes.
They're not afraid to spend a lot of money. You saw what they did that year where they signed Verlander and Scherzer in the same offseason. They also had no problem with buying that money or keeping that money and moving on. It's like they have a propensity to spend recklessly if they need to. And after losing Pete Alonso, that fan base is going to want them to do something. So don't be surprised if they're linked to all of the players coming out of Japan at the moment. New York has been a good market for Japan in the past. It's been the Yankees mostly, but they've been a good market in the past. Obviously, they have Senga, so you would have another guy there. Maybe Amai would balk at that idea, but I think ultimately he'd be okay with going there or the Phillies, as we mentioned earlier. That's it on the Mets at the moment. We'll have to see the fallout there, so keep your eyes peeled on them. The Atlanta Braves, on the other hand, have made some one major move. They brought in Mike Yastrzemski, outfielder formerly of the San Francisco Giants. They also signed, at the time, after those other 2 guys signed, probably the best available closer on the market in Robert Suarez to a 3-year deal. Great deal for them. And all of a sudden, if they have some luck with health, that is a dangerous pitching staff. They have 2 of the best closers in baseball at the end of that, with himself and Iglesias over the last 5 seasons. So just really electric stuff at the back end of that bullpen. That they can get even a little bit of health in that rotation, they're a dangerous team. I don't know if they go out and spend a lot of money on any available free agents, but they are a team that likes to identify guys in trades. So keep a close eye on the Braves. They're adding in the margins for now in the outfield in the lineup, but they spent some serious money on Suarez. I think $15 million a season for him. To add him to the back end of that bullpen. Some dangerous stuff, and that's a team that what that lineup can do when they're all going. I think with a little bit of health in that rotation, they're going to be fighting with the Phils once again for the division lead.
Just a heads up, by the way, Robert Suarez is going to be 35 next year. A lot of people don't realize how old he is.
But electric stuff. But you're right. That is something to consider because it can be a quick fall off, especially with bullpen pieces being year to year seemingly.
Yeah. The Braves feel a lot like the Mets to me, where I'm like, do I think they'll win 95? No. Can they? Yes. I think it's very unlikely. I think if the Phillies can win 95 again, I think that the NL East is not to say theirs, but like they should be winning the division. They have a better roster as currently constructed right now than either the Braves or the Mets. And I think it's by a pretty solid margin given their pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's far off. They need health. Health is number one for them. They need that no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see them. I think the Mets are more likely to be big spenders. The Braves are more likely to. You're going to see a notification pop up and be like, "Who the hell thought that was going to happen?" Right. So I think they're going to be the team that really surprises somebody with a move. It'll probably be a big trade, but that is something to keep an eye on closely. Other minor stuff, Miami Marlins, they did sign Chris Morel today. Don't know what that's going to mean.
He's not bad.
1-year deal. He could probably be somebody who would get flipped at the deadline. They're in that mode where, like, if you're going to sign a veteran, they're doing what the Pirates did a couple years ago. Sign a bunch of veterans. If one of them pops and we can trade him for a prospect, great. If not, at least we didn't have to play a 22-year-old from AA every single day. It's kind of and then the Nats, I haven't seen any major moves from the Nats, all rumors from their end. Obviously, Mackenzie Gore, his name has, his name has come up in a lot of trade rumors. Phillies have even been linked to him by some folks, so he could be an option to be on the trading block. Some folks have mentioned CJ Abrams. I think they do have some young guys that are coming up at the same time. James Wood in that outfield. CJ Abrams is one of the guys where he's now almost getting to the point where they're going to have to pay him a lot. So maybe they flip him and continue to build young, cheap behind him. So maybe Abrams would be an option. But Gore, I think, would be the prize from their end. So keep your eyes locked on Mackenzie Gore if you're worried about what the Nationals are going to do.
Yeah, I don't want the Phillies to. I don't need the Phillies to have any part of him. I think Mackenzie Gore is a great pitcher, but he's going to be expensive, and I don't think the Phillies need to be moving anyone for like starting pitchers that are going to cost a lot of prospects. Either sign one in free agency, or call up Andrew Painter, or call up Gage Wood. Like, if you need a pitcher, that is not something to spend your bullets on.
So officially on the record, Ben Silver would trade top prospects for Brenton Doyle, but not Mackenzie Gore. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Don't need him.
All right, Ben. Love it, man. Thank you so much for joining. We went extra long today, but the numbers kept going up. The viewers kept going up, so we wanted to keep it going for you guys. Appreciate, man, Billy and Steve. Now that we're back, we are back every Friday except for the holiday week. We will be back every Friday in the new year at 2 p.m. I'll also be on next week at 2 p.m., and then we're going to take the 2 holiday weeks off. But you guys were lighting it up in the comments. Love everything that you guys brought to the show today. Before we just to give you guys a little bit more love on the way out, Steve, is there a way we can unload Nola's contract? Unless they eat half of it, probably not. If he
wait for him to rebound.
You would be talking about that next season if he has a rebound this year. And even at that point, if he does rebound,
why would you
want to keep him around, right? Yeah. So
I
don't think it's going to happen, but there's a chance. Followed you on X. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you, man. Billy, appreciate the love in the comments too. Mm-hmm. Awesome show today, Ben. We'll figure out who's going to be back. So keep it locked to Philly Sports Network at Philadelphia SN on X. Keep it locked in because we have guys do it. We have a live off-season tracker where we're updating everything from the winter meetings. And again, like I mentioned already, that piece from Sean Nestor, if you want to get a little bit more about the impact of the Kyle Schwarber signing. Ben, anything else you want to plug on the way out the door?
Yes. I am working on a documentary right now on Connie Mack Stadium. Nice. It is coming out this summer. I don't know whether it's going to be early this summer or late this summer. But if you guys would like to see a trailer for it, it is up on my my Twitter X account. I'm actually going to pin that real quick because I realize I'm plugging it everywhere. And I haven't done that yet. It is now pinned to my profile. If you guys want to go take a look, I'm very proud of it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you have an interest in Philadelphia history or baseball history or just weird stuff in general, because that stadium has a lot of crazy history in 61 years, go check it out.
Love it, man. Well, I'm excited about it. I know you told us about it already, so I've seen the trailer. Love it, and you guys should definitely go check it out. I don't have anything going on right now, but if you are an NFL fan, I do post about NFL on X and on my Instagram as well. Same handle, Kyle Fisher 45. I work on the sidelines with CBS Sports every weekend during the NFL season. So if you want to get a little bit of extra stuff, my main focus is Phillies coverage. So if you love the Phillies, you'll love the follows that you just gave to Ben and myself. And like I said, keep it locked in at Philadelphia SN for all your Philly sports needs. This has been Alley Talk, the return of Alley Talk. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, Friday, 2 p.m., right here on YouTube and on socials. Ben, it's good to see you, my friend, and we will talk throughout the week to prep for next week's show, my man.
All right. Great talking with you, Kyle. Thank you for having me on as always.
Of course, man. Thanks, everybody. We love the game. We love ball. We love chopping it up. We are not hot take artists. We are here for the love of the game, just like you guys. Appreciate all the love throughout the season, and we're getting hype for 2026 and what the Phillies will do. Thanks a lot, guys.